Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. So tonight I'm going to be taking you on an unboxing video of my new Bosch compound sliding 12-inch miter saw. And real quick, the part number for this saw is going to be GCM12SD. And now real quick, I'll talk about why I purchased this saw. I was in the market for a sliding compound miter saw. I was very close to purchasing a much cheaper model made by Cobalt. I read the reviews looked very nice, and I almost pulled the trigger. The price range for those was around $120 to $200 for something similar to this, and I ended up going with the Bosch. There's a couple reasons to that. One is because Bosch is just a name that you can trust when it comes to woodworking. The highest quality tools out there, or among the highest quality tools. I'm sure there are higher quality tools that can be debated, but in my opinion, I would trust Bosch time and time again when it comes to woodworking tools. In addition, I look at this saw as an investment in my future. I feel, of course I'm somewhat young, and I feel like this saw is an investment in a tool that will hopefully last me the rest of my life. And the wonderful thing about a quality name like Bosch is when it comes time to replace consumable parts on this, which I'm not saying that's going to happen anytime soon, but parts break over time, that's understandable, but such as like the belt drive on this system. With a company like Bosch, it's very, very easy to ascertain a part like that, so I'm really not concerned about replacement parts in the future. And in addition to the quality name of Bosch, one of the major deciding factors of me purchasing this saw is very unique. It is not like any other sliding compound miter saw on the market. And what's so unique about this is, unlike conventional sliding compound miter saws that run on a two-rail system that extend past the backbone of the saw, this saw runs on a two-part knuckle system, if you so will. So there is a horizontal knuckle and a vertical knuckle, and those two work in conjunction to allow this saw to slide forward and backwards with maintaining a very low profile. And what that allows you to do is to literally butt this up right against the wall here. So for a guy like me who's working out of a two-car garage, who's very short on space, a saw like this is a wonderful tool. So I'm very happy about this purchase thus far. I did order it from Amazon. There is some slight damage to the box, as you can see. There's a little hole right there. There's a little hole right there. And it got a little beat up in the shipping process, which is somewhat expected. I believe this box is around 67 pounds. So I'm going to set this camera up and we will start opening up this box and see what we can find inside. Oh, one other thing real quick before I set this camera up. I do want to mention that this is a rather large box. It may not seem so, but it is a rather large box. It is approximately 31 inches. I don't know. Just subtracted my tape measure. Stand by one moment, please. 31 inches width by 22 length. And then we have about 25 inches high. So if you're curious about the size this box comes in, that's just the size of the box. So let me get my tripod and we'll dig into this. Okay, due to the sheer size of this box, I had to put it on the floor. That way I could access everything and put it up on the table so you guys could see. So let's start opening this up. That actually is already open. Okay. I'm going to take the camera over here because I feel it's pretty important that you guys see how exactly this is packaged in the box here. As for the way this thing is packaged, I'm very pleased with that. On the very bottom of the box there's styrofoam and it's cradled in here very nicely. So that's pretty much what that looks like. Let me move this camera back over here. Alright, so now I'm going to start the task of removing this saw from the box. Here's a piece. Okay. There's another piece. I'm actually going to lay this on the cardboard. I want to try and keep this as pristine as possible. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so we have the manual here with, I'm sure, assembly instructions and other hardware. And now we have the beast. Just trying to figure out the best way to pick this up. Well, that's interesting. Let me show you one other thing while I'm down in here. I have not taken a look at the instructions yet, but just looking down here, if you look at the table where the pieces of wood go, there are actually two arrows, or two triangles, or arrows, whatever you want to call them, on either side. And there is actually a place right in there for you to insert your hands, and it makes it very easy for you to just lift the saw right up. Mind you, this is a pretty heavy saw, but I would definitely recommend that to be the easiest way to pick this saw up. It's fairly balanced. It felt fairly balanced too when I went to lift this up. See, break those handles there. Oh, yeah. It is certainly heavy. That is something to take into consideration. And there we are. That is definitely a heavy saw. If you are a professional carpenter and you need to have a saw that's constantly moving around, a saw like this, I'm not sure I would recommend to you. Just for the pure fact that it is heavy. This is great for a workshop, a stationary saw, but definitely not recommended for a mobile application. So yeah, this is the saw. Let me take you around her a little bit. This is exactly how she comes from the factory. And my, what a piece of engineering, isn't she? Now it's probably kind of weird that I get excited over a saw like this. There's stage lights on you. Wow. That is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And the other two parts that I pulled out of cardboard are this handle, which I would presume is for adjusting the angle. And I believe this is also a work clamp, which it goes on the side of the saw right there. And if you have a piece of wood that you just want to clamp down as well, you have that option as well. Yeah. Sorry, you're seeing the messy garage now. Also, I'm sure you understand why it's important for me to maintain a clean and organized atmosphere. So, let me open the bag here. You have your dust catching bag, which it is very porous. There's some hardware. And of course, your assembly manual. Now, I'm not going to get the assembly on video here because I feel like I'd just be boring you. I doubt there's really too much to I doubt that there's really much to that. So I'm going to assemble this real quick, and I'll get back with you in a moment and let you know if I had any difficulties or anything like that. So I'll be right back. Wow, what an absolutely incredible saw. I I really can't speak highly enough of this thing, and I have not even used it yet. So I've done the assembly. The assembly was incredibly simple, and additionally it does not really require any additional tools. It does include this little hex wrench, which does the job just fine, and the only reason you're really going to need that is for tightening down the bolt on this angling adjusting handle, which you could do that with a regular socket too, which there's no problem there. But absolutely, my first impression of this saw is after I removed the locks on this thing, I was absolutely amazed at how easily this slides, like with the touch of a fingernail, back and forth. It really is incredible how smooth this thing glides back and forth. And before I get any further, let me just talk about some of the features. Now, when I took this thing out of the box, there's two locks to secure this sliding mechanism. I'll show you the first lock, and that's this little lever right here. If you want to stow this saw away, say you were moving it to another location, or if you were shipping it or something along those lines, you simply flip this little lever right here, which is held firmly by a little retention spring, and that inhibits the saw from sliding forward. And if you want to slide forward, just go ahead and do that. And another feature of this lock, if you want to just use this saw as a regular miter saw, you can leave that lock on, and I'll show you this other lock in a minute, and you can just use this saw now as a regular non-sliding miter saw. So I think that is a great feature. Now let me take you around to the other side now, and I'll show you the second lock. And there's actually another really awesome feature about this lock. Now this lock is simply just this little red pin right here. And in order to engage this lock or pin, you simply put the saw down, push that pin in, and now the saw is locked in the downward position. And another really cool feature about this saw is you can actually adjust the depth of this saw. Say, I don't know the exact name for this cut, but say you wanted to cut a groove. Say you have a piece of plywood and you just want to cut a groove. I know there's a specific name. I still got to learn it, I know, but what you would do in order to prevent this saw from going all the way through it is up by this lock right here, you have this little adjustment screw. And simply what you do is you twist down on this until you get it to the depth you want your saw to cut. And once it hits this plate here, that will inhibit or limit the saw's ability to cut completely through the piece of wood that you would like to cut through. So you can make those groove cuts without cutting completely through the piece of wood that you are working on. So I think that is absolutely a great feature, great mechanism. I love this a lot. So I'm just going to remove these locks for the remainder of my review. And yeah, so while we're over here, I just want to talk about this feature right here of the deck. I'll call that the deck. And the cool thing about this deck, or this working platform, is say you have a longer piece of material. These actually are wings and they pretty much slide out. So there's a little red lever right here. And you just flip that. And now you've just extended your working area, so now you can cut longer pieces of wood much more accurate by having a more stable environment. And these just simply stow away, and they extend. I mean, they extend a bit. Let me get my tape measure for you, just so you get an idea. So that's at about 6.5. And now we're at 14.5, so 14.5 minus 6.5. I'm pretty sure that would give you an additional, about 8 inches on either side. So you get an additional 8 inches of working space in addition to the 26 inches that's already there. So that is another excellent feature about this saw. Additionally, you have a working clamp. This working clamp is very simple. And there are just simply two holes on either side of this saw. It's hidden right behind that lever there. There's a hole right here, and there's another hole on the other side. And you can see that this is textured, which it slides down into this hole effortlessly. But once you start screwing down this clamp, it applies torque on this clamp backwards, and that texture on the bottom of this clamp here is what allows it to lock in and kind of hold your piece of wood down. So another great feature. I kind of wish they included two though, but you know, honestly, it doesn't make sense for them to have two, because you would only want one because you'd want the other piece to fall off. So scratch that, never mind. But moving on, I know I'm just kind of bouncing around here. One thing that I do really, I mean, there's many things I like about this saw, of course, but also you have just a little Allen wrench storage pouch right here. So when it's time to change your blade, you have this little Allen wrench in a very handy location, and it's very secure. Also, remember when we were in the unboxing stage, I noticed those little handles. Another thing I love about this saw is everything's labeled. Everything's pretty well foolproof. So these are clearly your carrying handles. So that's another great feature. Up here is just your dust port, which you can attach to a shop vac. It's actually adjustable, so you can adjust the angle. You can face it straight back or on the side. Really like that feature. We'll go into the front real quick, and we'll go over some of the basic operations of adjusting the saw. Now, I know there are a lot of Nazis online about saws not having, you know, laser lights and little LED lights. Well, my opinion is, if you need an LED light to guide your saw, then you really shouldn't be complaining about inaccurate cuts. I feel like if you are a true carpenter, you really don't need a laser or a little light. Granted, a light would make things easier. I would kind of prefer a little light, but the laser, I feel like, come on guys, like a laser, you don't need that shit. So this saw does not have it. There may be some kind of adapters or other accessories you can get, but this is just how the saw comes. And yeah, so no complaints about that whatsoever. So adjust the saw. To adjust the saw, to adjust the angle, all you simply do is this screw right here locks, or it applies tension so that there's no way that this could move from side to side. And now you have a two-part lever system. If you want to just go to one of your quick measurements, so say I wanted to bring this saw to 45 degrees to the left, all I would do is lift this little handle underneath the bottom here, and I would slide it, and when I get to 45 degrees and I let go on this handle, you can hear it automatically locks into 45 degrees. And then if you wanted an added layer of security, which I think is recommended in the manual, you would simply screw this down, and now this is absolutely not going anywhere. Now, if you need a specific angle other than the many chosen or pre-designated slots, what you would simply do is, of course, unscrew your locking screw. You would lift up this handle, and at the same time you're lifting up this handle on the bottom here, you would press down on this top latch, let go of the bottom lever, let go of the top lever, and now you have infinite ability to adjust to whatever angle you're going to need. And then when you pick out an angle, all you do is push down this tightening knob, and you're ready to cut. So now we'll go into the second form of adjustment on this saw. So you have this line of cut. I guess these types of cuts are called miter cuts, so that's why it's called a dual or a compound miter saw, because you have two different angles of miter cuts. So we've talked about the way the saw cuts this way, and in order to adjust your other blade vertical angle, I guess is a way to describe it, is you have a locking lever on the left side of the saw here, and simply what you do, I'm still kind of new to this, so I'm going to explain it the best I can. What you do is you lift up on this lever, and that unlocks this top portion of the saw. And now there's another knob over here on the side, which I'm still trying to learn a little bit. There are instructions here, but it is just slightly confusing to the redneck who doesn't read very often. So there are a couple different numbers on the saw. So I'd imagine if you want to shift the saw to the left, you put it on 0 to 45 degrees left. Or if you want to go 0 to 45 right, you switch that knob to 0 to 45 degrees right. Or you also have up to 47 degrees or left or right. So I guess if you're going for that extreme cut, you could switch it to the very far left. So I'm going to keep this on, I believe it's on 45 degrees right. And so we've already loosened up that locking lever. And now all I'm simply going to do is move this saw to the right. And now, granted, this knob is only on to the right now. If I wanted to, I could, oh wait, actually look at that. This knob actually automatically shifted back to the 0 to 45 degrees left, so I'm going to start going right again. And that's interesting, it actually locks. So if I want to go to the right, I'm going to hold down to the right. It can go down to 45 degrees. That's at 45 degrees. And if I wanted to lock this in at 45 degrees, let me just make sure I have you on camera angle there. So if I wanted to lock this on 45 degrees, all I do is throw down that locking lever. If I want to go back, lift that locking lever up. I don't need to do anything if I want to shift it back left. There goes that knob. It goes back to 0 to 45 degrees left. And if I actually go to the left and I bring it back to the right, it'll actually lock in at 90 degrees. Now, just for the fun of this video, I'm just going to check this plumb, because it says it's at 0 degrees, so let me take my square and let's see if this blade is exactly at 90 degrees. And you'll just have to take my word for that. That is exactly 90 degrees. You know, while we're at it, let's just check this other angle. We'll take our override off. Hopefully you can see me there. So I just took my override off, so now it's going to automatically lock into the 0 degrees. And let's go down with this blade. And let's just check and see. This blade is at exactly 90 degrees. By golly, that's at exactly 90 degrees. So right out the factory, this thing is dead on balls accurate. It may vary for your saw, but at least for my saw is dead on balls accurate. When I was looking up cheaper saws, like the Cobalt saw, a lot of the reviews said that the saw didn't come, you know, perfectly aligned from the factory, and it required some adjustments. So just so you know, Bosch, high quality, pretty much dead on balls out of the factory. So hopefully I don't stir up too much controversy in this video over that, but I'll just take you around, zoom in on some features. So when you're doing that vertical angling, that's your gauge in the back there. And let me check what kind of material that is. That is some type of, I believe that's steel. So for that gauge back there, so that's not going to wear out. This gauge on the bottom here, this is obviously, I think it's stainless steel or something. I'm pretty sure. This part of the saw right here, I'm pretty sure this is plastic. It is plastic. Then the rest of it is either cast steel or aluminum. I'm not 100% sure. And I know there's one other feature that I'm kind of forgetting about this saw. On this video, you may notice that there's a little bit of white residue on this sliding gauge. I'm not sure the exact name or its use or function yet, but the white residue is just from some styrofoam. I was rubbing it off with my finger. It came off fairly easily. But these gauges, I still have a lot to learn about this saw. Obviously, this is top of the line saw, but for whatever reason, there is a red lever over on the side here, and if I throw that, these will actually slide down. And I know you can see that they move up and down a little bit, but as soon as you throw that lever, it takes all movement out of the rail. And also I just touched that rail. Everything's pre-lubricated, which I could foresee dust collection right there being a light problem in the future. You know, right in here there's some grease. So that's just something I'll have to keep an eye on. But other than that, I think there's one other thing that I haven't really gone over, which I think I've gone over pretty well everything, and that is simply the trigger, turning the saw on. So to turn the saw on, you have a trigger lock, which you need to press first. So if you're left-handed or right-handed, there's actually a trigger lock on either side of this handle, which I really enjoy. Which I'm only right-handed, so that's probably never going to be used. But you never know when you're going to need to use your left hand. So clearly all you do is just press in this lock, pull down the handle, and then you can let go of the trigger lock, and now you have complete control over the saw. And there is no way to lock this handle down, which is a safety feature that I like. So I'm sure you could jerry rig it, but I definitely wouldn't recommend that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, I've said it once, I'll say it again. Everything is very clearly labeled on this saw. Wherever you look, there's some type of diagram with instructions. You know, right there you have the instructions for... Huh, that's interesting. That's actually all in Spanish? Where's the English version? Okay. Huh. That is, that's kind of interesting. So there's just kind of, there are diagrams around the saw. That one is not in English for some reason. I was looking around the side there to see if there were English instructions, but there's not. I guess this is more geared towards a Spanish workforce. But there are blade changing instructions up over here. And there are multiple different languages there, so... Hold up. I think I found the English version of what we just found on the side over there. That's actually on top of the motor. But anyway, there are little directions all over this saw. So if there's something that you need to change or adjust, you'll know that the instructions will be pretty much right in front of you. And I think that's about all I can think about this saw. All I can think to say about this saw. If you're curious for the measurements, I'll give you the measurements one time. Just out of the box. I think I gave you the workbench measurement. Contracted is about 26.5 inches. Now, total depth wise of this saw, you're talking about 33 inches from the very backbone of this saw to the tip of this adjustment knob. And then height-wise, with this saw, without it being locked down, from my workbench to the tip of the handle is about 27.5 inches. So, just if you're looking at purchasing this saw and you're just trying to get an idea of the size of it, it's a pretty damn large saw, but it's a 12-inch blade, sliding compound miter, excellent for butting up against the wall. I mean, from what I see right now, I think this is going to be a great saw. I'm very excited to start playing around with this. I will be making a workbench for this, which will be going in this space over here up against the wall. You know, one other thing while I'm going to do, you guys might as well hear this thing run. I'm kind of excited to hear it run too, so let me throw on a quick set of hearing protectors. Also going to throw on some, I'm going to throw on a face shield just to be safe. In case anything were to go awry, it'd probably be right now. So yes, I have my safety gear on. Throw my extension cord around the back. Let's see how this baby does. Wow. You know what? I did not even need my hearing protectors. I was not expecting that to be so quiet. Compared to other miter saws that I've ran, this is probably among the quietest saws I've ever ran. And that blade stop is very quick. The blade break is very important to me. Functions extremely well. Very happy about this saw. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave a question in the comment. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you're interested in purchasing this saw, I got mine from Amazon. I would totally recommend getting it from Amazon. I've had no problems whatsoever. I will leave a link in the description below. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, I'd also appreciate a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe. I should be doing a lot of cool things in the future. Probably going to be doing some snow plowing videos too if it ever snows this winter. And I'll definitely be doing a video on this woodworking bench coming up. I actually just got back from Home Depot a little bit earlier today and I got all my material, so it's also partially the reason why I'm doing this right now is because I'm going to be needing to cut some wood to size, and I figured now would be the best time to break this new saw out, so there she is. Thanks for watching.